And we're back from commercial. We are joined by author Robert Brown. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor to be here today.
Already an honor to have you here today, to be honest. So tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, my book is called Wealthing Like Rabbits, and it is an introductory personal finance book aimed at millennials, people in their late teens through 35 or so. And I'm very fond of saying that the book contains great financial lessons for people of all ages, but it really is aimed at that millennial marketplace. And what's a little bit different about my book than all of the other excellent personal finance books out there is when I wrote it, I worked really hard at avoiding charts and graphs and math, and instead I used a lot of humor and pop culture references to take a subject that can be pretty dry and make it more fun and more accessible.
Well, I know, like, if I have to read a chart, I just sometimes, it's bad.
Well, we've got Homer Simpson in here for you.
That sounds even better. Yeah.
Okay.
So what drove you to write this type of book?
Well, I'll tell you, I was always that guy that wanted to write a book. And you may know some of those people. Someday I'm going to write a book. And it took me almost 25 years to actually pick up pen or to get out a laptop and start to write.
Wow.
And it took over 2 years to write the book, and we spent another 6 months editing, but I'm very proud of the result. But writing a book was always a bucket list thing for me.
Yeah, that actually sounds, wow. And what about the title? Because I know it talks about rabbits and wealth. I was like, how did he relate this?
Yeah, you know, it's a funny story because you think when somebody writes a book that the title is one of the first things they come up with. The title was actually one of the last things we come up with. And just as another fun fact, the first chapter in the book was actually the last chapter that I wrote.
Oh, wow.
But the title Wealthing Like Rabbits comes from two ideas inside the book that we sort of mashed together. I think that sometimes we use the word saving too much, and sometimes when we use it wrong. Someone goes out and buys a big screen TV on sale and they say they saved $400. Well, they haven't saved anything. They've still spent a bunch of money on a big screen TV. So I say whenever you do any saving that actually makes you wealthier, we should call that wealthing instead, because it sounds cooler and hopefully it gets people thinking a little bit differently about where their money is going. And the Like Rabbits part of the title comes from the part of the book where I'm talking about compound interest and how much your money can grow given enough time. And I tell the true story of what happened with the rabbit population in Australia, where they started with 24 rabbits that were shipped there, and 60 years later there was 10 billion rabbits in Australia because rabbits are so good at compounding, if you will. So it was a fun way to teach a valuable lesson. We kind of mashed those things together, wealthing like rabbits, to make it that cheeky little play on words.
Yeah. That's actually incredible how you actually related that, though. It sounds amazing.
My mind works in strange ways, Maria.
Yeah, that's creativity, right? Yeah.
Sure.
And what are some tips that you would give to students nowadays?
I would give two takeaways to students, and the first one is kind of an actionable takeaway. Stay away from payday loan places. They are basically legalized loan sharking. While I would be the first to suggest that a credit card, used properly, can be a very valuable tool for students, payday loan places have no place in your financial repertoire. They're basically legalized loan sharking, and you can be paying up to 600 or 700% interest on that money.
Yeah.
The second takeaway I would suggest is that people need to be comfortable living within their means. And it's not hard to find a personal finance guy that'll say live within your means, because it is great advice. But I always like to add the caveat to be comfortable doing it, because if you look at it as some sort of sacrifice or hardship, it's pretty hard to maintain. But if you're comfortable doing it, you'll be in comfortable shape throughout your entire life.
Yeah. And do you think this type of book would help the next generations?
I do. You know, there's a lot of great personal finance books out there, but this is real foundational stuff. I talk about saving, the best way to do it, a lot on debt management, you know, credit cards, lines of credit, home equity lines of credit, payday loans, and I also talk about mortgages a little bit and what's good and bad about them. Leads me into home ownership, some of the other expenses that come with a home. And in a chapter that's kind of my favorite, a lot of fun perspective on spending decisions, the things we tend to spend our money on, going out for dinner, cars, vacations, weddings. And I'm proud of that chapter, Maria, because I don't really tell the reader what to do, because everybody's life is so different. But I think I do a pretty good job of setting those subjects on the table in a way that will get the reader thinking a little bit differently so they can make the best decision for themselves.
All right. Well, thank you very much, for this interview.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining us today, Robert. And viewers, make sure you check out his website and grab a copy of Wealthing Like Rabbits. Now, we throw it to Whitney, who has a community story.